I think that farmers haven't really recognised until the last few years how important trees on their farm are and will be into the future. If we want a resilient farming system and a lot of nature and helping with climate change, then trees become the farmer's friend. And actually I think historically farmers, and I was probably like this myself 20 years ago, see that trees kind of live in woods over there rather than integrating them onto their farm. And it's that integration that agroforestry is doing.
Shelter and shade is obviously really, really important from a livestock perspective. So we know that trees, you can get sort of 5-degree difference between the ambient weather outside and what's going on in a tree. So you might be 5 degrees cooler in the summer, or you might be 5 degrees warmer in the winter. But it's also worth thinking about food as browse or as a diet for our livestock. Cows, sheep and goats obviously do browse, so if we can encourage that in our farming systems as well, I think that's really important for thinking about it from a health and welfare perspective.
The only thing I would say that I think has helped enormously with drought was mulching. We mulched all our trees generously, and that combined with watering as much as possible I think has made a huge difference, but probably the mulching was the most important thing.
The mulching that we do really helps. We mulch very heavily with wood chip, and that's been one of the great learnings over the past decade at how important that wood chip mulching is. But even with it, I think now we would go in and break the ground before we started planting to give those trees just a bit more of a head start in front of that very competitive grassland.
The sheep's wool as a mulch to control weeds and to allow the tree to get established. Definitely, it's a great use for wool that is readily available.
I would always try and plant in our climate, if possible, December, January, purely because the last few years, February, March can either be very dry or very wet, and suddenly if something's going to bud break at the end of or mid-end of April, and it's the first week of April and you haven't got them in the ground, the pressure's on.
If you look at the ground, we spend a lot of time looking at the ground. Within 50 metres of trees, the soil's different and it's more resilient. It's about listening to the ground, listening to the business, working out what one needs, and actually then you can go to your advisors and say, this is what I want to achieve, and it'll work. So really the key thing is listen to what's in place and crack on.
I think what I would say is just get going and try a bit. That's probably the most important thing of all. And learn what really suits your farm and your farming system. I think, if you want another income stream in the near future, think about fruits and shrubs, that kind of thing. If you're thinking about the longer term capital development of your farm, maybe some timber trees, you've got to really think about what's going to work for you.
So the trees that we planted really mimicked the trees that we had in our SSSI woodland, which is an ancient woodland on the farm. And so we knew that those trees were going to go well on our soil. And that's worked incredibly well. But having said that, there's 1 or 2 species that are not in the wood we specifically wanted. So I wanted some walnuts in there, and they've not done terribly well at all. But generally, everything else has done well because we were very careful about picking those species.
A lot of farmers believe agroforestry will take away from production, but I've tried to design it so that especially with animal integration, it's very easy that you don't need to take any land out of production. You can graze right to the base of the tree. You don't need to fence off 3 metres or so. And also the opportunity for different crops and business ventures off of fruit or timber or whatever it may be. You can design it to fit all the needs. So it's often an excuse not to take it forward, but there's always a way to make it work.
In terms of productivity, it's exactly the same.
But it's thinking differently. So all we've done is we've added a vertical crop. We had a horizontal crop, we've added a vertical crop. Yeah. That's all we've done.
The real game changer for us was being able to secure funding from the Woodland Trust to make our first steps into agroforestry. When you're not sure whether it's going to bring you benefits or not, taking that big financial risk is a scary one, and for the owners of the farm and the bill payers, it's like lessening that risk by getting someone to put in the initial investment to plant the trees and protect the trees was a key swinger in whether we were going to do it or not, basically. And as far as anyone wanting to take up agroforestry themselves, I think the best bit of advice I could give anyone is not to just go out there and copy someone else's design. It's an amazing toolkit of solutions when you get really into the subject. Every farm, every field is completely unique, And if you understand how to design your own system, you can address your own unique problems with your own unique design.
How this project has made us feel is actually one of the biggest factors. It's been joyful. The trees have changed our farm, and in a really positive way. We love our farm, and we're really proud of our farm, but we love it more now. The trees have added so much colour and diversity already, even though they're very small. There's so much optimism. We're absolutely full of optimism about the impact on nature and carbon that we're going to bring about by doing this, and it looks great as well.